Hey, welcome and thank you for joining me as we jump into the fourth and final installment of the Trade Spend Maximizer framework. Today, we're going to be covering optimize. And just as a reminder, trade spend is the second largest line on the P&L behind cost of goods sold. And we actually find that 1/3 of all trade dollars are wasted every year. And so we wanted to provide to you a framework that you can implement in your business immediately to start seeing results. So why don't we go ahead and dive in? Okay, and just as a reminder, the framework is the trade spend maximizer framework. And we've covered sales data, how we get it organized and in a fashion that we can leverage it for our trade spend reporting. We've got trade spend data. We have metrics. These are the trade spend metrics that we want to be collecting, reporting, and focusing on. And then finally, we've got optimize. And that is what we are going to be covering today. So why don't we go ahead and jump right in? And there are going to be three focus areas for us as we start to think about how are we going to optimize our trade spend. And if you recall from last week's video, we've got working trade and non-working trade. And just put simply, working trade are dollars that are going directly towards helping you sell more product. Think promotions, advertising, etc. And then we've got non-working trade, and these are dollars that are not going directly towards increasing sales on your product, getting more of your product into the consumer's hands. There's a number of reasons like fees and fines, administration fees as well, and other types of categories which we'll cover momentarily. And then so, as part of these three focus areas, number one, we want to focus on non-working trade, right? If we're going to find places to whittle this down and ensure our dollars are being maximized, then we want to start in a place that is not going to reduce our sales, but rather hopefully provide an opportunity to reinvest into the business. And then second, we're going to talk about your indirect retailers. So if we're thinking distributors, then we're going to think about the retailers that they're servicing on our behalf, and how do we um, assess that business to ensure that even within your retailers, you're optimizing all of your dollars. And then how do we create a collaborative action plan? Because we know that these things can come across different areas in the business, and you may need other stakeholders within your business or even partners like your broker partners in order to action these. And so we'll talk a little bit about how we can do that. So let's dive into the details. I use this as an example in the last video, and we're just going to think about our total trade spend for a moment at the highest level. We've got 10 million in gross sales. We have 2 million in trade spend, which is a 20% spend rate with this account. Underneath that, we've created reporting to be able to break this down by working trade and non-working trade, and that's a 15-5 split. And when you have these, you can then drill in from there to understand within my non-working trade, how does that break down by category? And this is obviously very important so we can start to understand what we can influence. And so here I've highlighted an example. There's many examples as you go, you'll see there's many layers to each one of these categories. And so I've chosen logistics, fees, and fines as an example. In this case, there's about $100,000 or 1% of your trade spend that's getting hit on these compliance fees or other types of fines within the business. And so obviously, these aren't helping us drive more sales through the register onto the into the consumer's cart. And so how do we find a way to manage these down and ensure that we're maximizing every trade dollar we spend? And so I go one step further. You'll notice here that now logistics has been broken down into 3 different categories, and there can be more than this, but right now, just for example, we're going to look at late fees. So we've got $50,000 of the 100,000 in logistics that are coming from late fees. And we actually just had an example like this with a current customer. They had a similar breakdown here. And so as we reviewed their process, we were able to quickly review, now that we've created this reporting for ourselves, of the 100,000, 50,000 is late. And as we drill down into those actual deductions, we're able to find that actually a quick tweak to our process, when we know that there's going to be a late delivery within, let's say, 3 to 5 days of when that order was originally intended to land with our direct customer, that they were able to adjust the date in the customer's system, and they were able to avoid these fees altogether. So within this example, hopefully that demonstrates how within non-working trade, there's some low-hanging fruit that we can grab onto, and it's real dollars. They're real dollars that we can reduce and we can eliminate, and then we can take 50,000, redeploy it back into our business to drive sales on the top line. Next, we've got a retailer trade spend example for you. So thinking working trade here, we can look at our retail trade spend dollars to understand underneath, again, using a distributor as an example, underneath that distributor's sales, we can actually drill down and see, okay, we've got our top retailers like Whole Foods, Publix, and Sprouts, just as an example. And when we look at these, we're able to see our annual sales by account, our trade spend by account. Again, this is because of the reporting that we've teed up in our prior videos and examples. And then you're able to see really easily, you're able to identify, wait, we've got an account, Sprouts here, whose 40% trade spend rate on my $1 million, yet they only make up 10% of my sales. So out of the gate, 40% is probably higher than what we're shooting for. So that allows us to see how we could potentially optimize our spend within this account. And so if we go to the next page, we've drilled down, and this is also a real life example that I've brought over and masked so that we can see. I've masked the account and the brand and the items just to demonstrate for us in this example. As we drill down, now what you're going to see on the left-hand side of my screen is we have the Sprouts example, call it retailer S, and we've got our total sales of $1 million. We have our trade spend of 400,000. And underneath that, you can see the breakdown by category. Now we see our working and non-working trade here, as we've talked about before. Promotion, advertising, placement, those are going to be more of your working trade, where spoils is going to be a non-working trade, right? These dollars are not doing anything to drive our business forward, of course, we know that this happens, and you know, 0% is probably not what we're looking for here realistically, but 9% of my revenue going towards spoils is a problem, right? It's an opportunity. And so what we've done is we've gone a step further on the right-hand side, and you can see by item, how much we sold, how much we spoiled, and the percent of sales that we're seeing. So for those first two items, we're 35 to 40% trade spend rate here, and we can see that this is an opportunity. We probably don't have that within our margins to be able to give, A, and B, even if we did, that's a waste. And so what we see is an opportunity to fix the mix. You either want to work to try to disco and move these items out for the next, let's say, planogram reset, or perhaps you can fix the mix and swap one in, one out for items that are going to sell and perform better for you and the retailer. And that's just good stewardship as you think about managing the account and your business and the business with your retail partner. So this is another example of when we drill down within this reporting we've created, we're able to quickly see how we can optimize our trade spend and work down non-working trade to ensure that we're driving our business forward profitably. I'm going to pause here for a second while I let this dog out, and then we can cut this. Okay, and now we move to the collaborative action plan. And here it's really, let's think about it as a root cause analysis. You've had an opportunity to do your analysis. Let's say we use that spoils example, and you have reviewed the data. You've gone through the steps to identify the items that are causing your biggest issue, and now you're going to try to capture that and figure out with your cross-functional team, this could be your broker, it could be your sales team, whomever it ends up being, you're able to identify, how we can attack this, what actions we can take, and to ensure that we can reduce these dollars at retail with our account so that we can ensure our dollars are being maximized. And so this is a quick just overview. I've just bulleted out about 6 things we want to be focused on within this action plan. So you've got who are the key stakeholders, what are the possible causes? So as you're working through that root cause analysis, what are your findings? So it could be those items, the 2 items that we're seeing at a 35 to 40% rate just on spoils alone versus sales. Then we want to identify who are the key stakeholders that we can work with. This can be internal and external. Who is going to be the owner? And then what are the actions we're going to take? And then 6, finally, is what's the resolution? Of course, we want to continue to report on kind of how this played out so that for future, we can change process, or we know that that process was a success, we can repeat it, and we can ensure that we're maximizing every trade spend dollar that we're spending out in the market. So that brings us to the end. And if it's okay with you, I'll just show you how you could do this with a partner like TrueUp, where we're bringing this data to you at really the click of a button. For a limited time, we're offering a free trade spend health check where we take in your data. We turn up these types of reports so that you can then see them within the system and see how you can make sure you're maximizing every trade dollar, and if you're not, how you can recover and make an impact on those spend. So first, I'll just tell you kind of how this thing works. We're going to take in those deductions. We're going to read those PDFs, images, Excel, CSV documents, all of them. We're going to now take that information and turn it into really easy, usable information. As you see on the right-hand side, we went from 60 pages of a PDF to 5 lines of data. It's who was the retailer, which items, scan per unit, units sold. With this, you can see we've got very granular data, but also usable information, and sky's the limit. So next, we can now see how when you take your trade spend data or those deductions and you bump it against your sales data, you can now get your deduction information. Sorry, you can now get your trade spend data at the retailer, indirect retailer level. And this allows you to now see how much we're spending with each account. Like we talked about earlier, you can see that breakdown by category, by retailer, where you're potentially leaking dollars in non-working trade versus maximizing your trade spend in working trade dollars that are going to drive growth in the business. Finally, we're able to do that by pulling in your sales data, bumping it off your list price to that account. So you've got your gross sales and giving you really robust, detailed reports in a way that you'd like to see it, whether it's units sold by month, points of distribution, units per store per week, or just a top line executive review by retailer and by account. So for a limited time, we're doing a free trade spend health check so that you can see your data live and in action. And at a minimum, you'll be able to see some opportunities that you can go after within your business. So we encourage you to please reach out. Let us know if we can pull this together for you, or if you just have questions on what you heard today, feel free to reach out to me personally. You can see my information here. We will share this document in this post so that you can download it and have it for your own internal use. And thank you so much for following us on this journey. We really hope that it was helpful for you as you continue to maximize your trade spend and get more of your products into the consumer's hands. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.